Hi, I'm Jim Audio. Have you ever wondered?
What? How did he know where I was? What a f***ing cheater!
Well, if you have, you need to watch this video. Or maybe you just need better headphones.
This video brought to you by NJOverclocked. Product not tested on coppers or silvers. Results may vary.
Speaking of better headphones, this video is sponsored by Massdrop, and I'm really happy that it is because they sent me the PC37X, which is honestly the best headset I've ever used for competitive gaming. They're extremely comfortable, lightweight, yet sturdy, and the sound profile is so good for first-person shooters because it emphasizes the mid-range where footsteps are and stuff like that. But it does so without sacrificing the overall sound quality like some other headsets that I've tried do. There's still bass in there, and they don't sound flat at all. And they're at a lower price than those other headsets that I've tried. Just look at these ear cups, dude. They're made of velvet. And you might think, that sounds sweaty, but nope. They have an open back design which allows air in, and I've worn these for over 8 hours straight and not gotten sweaty ears. And one other thing that bothers me is flimsy cables, but these also have beautiful build quality on that too. I just ditched a over $200 headset in favor of these, and I would have done that whether I'm sponsored or not. They're actually that good. So if you want to up your game to a truly high-end headset without breaking the bank, and you want to get this beautiful box in the mail, head on over to this link, which will also of course be in the description. They're like the ones that Macy J uses, but limited edition and cooler. Okay, let's get into it. Put on your try-hard pants because we're about to go deep. Over the past year or so, I've started to become what most people would call a sound whore, which might sound like it has negative connotations, but it definitely doesn't, especially not in Siege. I felt like my aim had improved a lot.
Kibana, you should get a hatch, not going from garage.
Oof. And my KD had improved a lot, but there was still a whole aspect of the game that I was neglecting. And as it turns out, I was right. I've been grinding and playing with Serenity and other people that are better than I am, and I've been holding my weight. And it's been in large part because of the things I've learned about audio. Some of these things have actually completely changed the way that I play, and I'm not exaggerating at all. I have actually jumped into a solo queue and been accused of cheating because of the way that I play and the way that I just randomly look around and turn my head and break random stuff. You should understand what I mean by the end of this video. But to get started, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to actually answer it to yourself. Have you ever been killed by someone that really seemed like they shouldn't have known where you were? I'm sure the answer is yes, but did you ever find out why?
A bomb has been located by Op 4. Friendly, last operator standing.
Is he in? Where the fuck? Did you catch that? I think, even now, that I had a pretty good reason to assume that the enemy had run into the room with me and gone behind the archive shelf, at least judging by what I heard. Just keep this clip in mind as we go through the video. Now, to get started with something fairly basic and lay the groundwork for this, sound in Siege takes the shortest path from its source to you. What that means is if there's an opening, like a door, a window, or a hole, and there's sound on the other side of it, if that window, door, or hole is on your left, you will hear that sound exclusively on your left. And that is true even if the enemy making the sound is directionally on your right. I'll demonstrate this now with a clip from a custom game. You can hear that Bandit is running from my left to my right, but I only hear it on the left because the window is on the left. I think most people know this basic fact about the audio, but let's look at some of the details. Here's the sound file. The first thing you should notice is that I hear him on the left the entire time. Okay, this checks out, but what you might notice is that not only on the left the entire time. What the hell is this bit about? Well, as it turns out, if someone is straight in front of you, no matter where the opening is or where you are in relation to it, you will hear them as if they're straight in front of you. I'm gonna play you the clip again, but with boosted audio so you can hear it better. Pretty interesting, right? Well, it gets even better. I should warn you, this next detail I found is pretty try-hard, and to be frank with you, it won't come in handy that often. It'll definitely help in clutch situations, though. Oh, and to take advantage of this detail, you'll need good headphones. Link in the description. Okay, let's take a look. What you might notice, although I'd be pretty surprised if you did, is that there's actually a difference between when the enemy is closer to the opening, aka on my left, and further from the opening, aka on my right. And the difference is similar to the difference between normal horizontal audio and vertical audio. For example, when you hear someone running above you, it will sound very bassy and muffled. You won't hear the actual impact of their shoe with the floor, but you will hear the bass and the reverberation of that sound. I'll play it one last time and try to notice that when he's on the left, you can actually hear his foot hitting the metal, but when he's on the right, it's noticeably more muffled. So that's one way to tell what side someone's on, but what you might be thinking is that's a bit too sweaty for me, and maybe you're always playing with people talking in Discord, so you won't be able to hear with that much precision. So are there any other ways? And yes, there is in fact another way to tell what direction someone's in through an opening by just using your ears. And it's a bit weird, but it is one of the most important things to know about audio in this game, and I'm surprised that more people don't know about it. So what do you have to do then? Just get closer to the opening. That's it. If you want to understand how this works, just watch this clip and notice that as I get closer to the door, the sound of Blackbeard's footsteps gets more and more directional, aka left to right, whereas at the start I only hear him on the left, as you would expect. Now let's see what happens when we're close to the door. So if you want to utilize this detail to your advantage, basically picture that every opening in the game, whether it be a door, a window, or even a hole that you make with Hibana or Maverick, they all have a sphere of influence, and once you enter it, you will have directional sound to the other side of that opening. And not only that, but the farther you go into that sphere, the more directional that sound will get. It seems that if you want to have full directional audio, aka you want to hear exactly where those footsteps are coming from, you're going to have to be within 2 meters of the opening. That is, at least for doors and windows. But for smaller holes like Maverick or Hibana holes, things are a little bit different. Let's take a look. Oh, and by the way, it works the same way vertically. Notice that I only hear him on the left when the hatch that's open is on my left, even if it is above me. Now, at this point, you might be pretty confused, so let's just go over the rules really quick. Number 1, to have real directional sound through an opening, you have to be within its sphere of influence. Picture a bubble around every door or window, and remember that you have to be in that bubble to have directional sound. And if you're not within it, you'll just hear that sound coming from whatever direction that opening is to you. And rule number 2, a melee hole will not work. There does seem to be a minimum size for holes that will allow you directional sound, and for whatever reason, it has to be about this size, which is about 2 adjoined Maverick holes or about 10 melee hits. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. And rule number 3, which I haven't really mentioned yet because I assume most people know this already, but if a door or window is barricaded, it no longer functions as an opening until the barricade is broken. Did you get all that? Good, because if you actually keep this stuff in mind while you play, it will change the way that you play the game. I can pretty much guarantee that. But in order to see how this stuff applies in real time, let's take a look at that clip again.
Friendly, last operator standing.
Is he in? Where the fuck? Did you catch it that time? So because I'm facing towards lobby and the enemy is outside the door to my right, I hear them to my hard right, and naturally my reaction is to turn around to the right as fast as I can. At this point, I'm so focused on where I heard the sound before that I'm not even stopping to try and pinpoint where it's coming from now. I'm also now facing the direction of that doorway, so whether that enemy is outside the door or in the room, I'm going to hear him in front of me either way. And as a result, I come to the false conclusion that the enemy ran inside the room with me and that I should try to peek him on the left. this was dumb. So because there's a doorway where that enemy is that I'm not close to, and I'm unsure of whether that enemy is in the room or outside of the room, I shouldn't have relied on or reacted to that sound at all. I should have turned my head and listened for the directional audio. If I had been more patient and paying attention to the sound, I would have known that the enemy was outside the door. Because if that enemy actually were in the room with me, then I would have directional audio on him, and I would have heard him here instead of there. Which might sound like a really small difference, but if you're actually paying attention to the sound, you'll be surprised. But at the end of the day, it was this castle barricade that kind of screwed me over. Because if that wasn't there, I could have used that window to get the directional audio. Or I would have just heard him step on this barbed wire. Shut up. And because I know I'm going to get a bunch of comments about this, let me briefly cover the audio settings. Hi-Fi has a very high dynamic range, meaning that loud sounds, such as the sounds of your own footsteps and weapon, are very loud, while quiet sounds, such as the sounds of distant enemies, are very quiet. This is, in my opinion, not very good, because the sounds of your own operator tend to mask the sounds of your enemies. Night mode has a very low dynamic range, meaning that loud sounds are quieter, while quiet and distant sounds are louder, and as a result, all sounds are fairly similar in volume. And while this option seems like the best option on paper, I personally don't like it because it can be difficult to tell the difference between a distance enemy and an enemy that's right around the corner. And that is why I use TV. It's right in the middle and sort of has the best of both worlds. Serenity also uses TV, and he is a fellow sound whore like myself. But do keep in mind there is no one definitive best option, and there is some personal preference in here. And final note, dynamic range settings do not affect the distance at which you can hear enemies, only the volume at which you hear them. Let me just repeat that because it's really important. Dynamic range settings do not affect the distance from which you can hear enemies, only the volume at which you hear them. Thanks everybody for watching this video. Thanks again to Massdrop for sponsoring it, and I will see you in the next one.